So today I'm going to discuss the next lesson that I've learned from the Web Development Bootcamp in Udemy by Dr. Angela Yu. And I've completed the intermediate CSS lesson, section 5. So before she discussed the intermediate CSS, she introduced the concept of div, which is an HTML element which allows you to group or divide the elements in your HTML body. So I think its purpose is just to literally group elements that you want to style or you want to make some action so that it will be easier for the programmer to manipulate or move or design this area of the web page. So that's it. We use a lot of divs all throughout the section. So she discussed it and I'll show you a little bit. The index of HTML. So we divided the body into 3 parts: top container, the middle container, and the bottom container here. And inside the middle container contains several divs also. So div class profile, skills, and each skill row has a div as well. So that's just the div. And the next part, we discussed about the CSS box model of website styling. So basically, it's just how a CSS element or an HTML element is outlined by default. Each element is represented just by blocks. So let's see, for example, here, let me show for this image, for example, my profile picture. Let's first remove the radius so that it will be easy. Oops. Let's retain that height. And let's increase the size of this window. So, okay, let me use this instead. Let's remove the radius. As you can see, for this image, or any other element, there's always margin, border, padding, and its actual size. But sometimes there's no margin for this sample. The top margin is blank or 0 or none. The left and the bottom is 0 as well, but the right has a set of 30 pixels from the right to the right for its margin. It adds spacing from one element to another. So that's the margin. If I want to have a spacing from the top of my, for example, I want 10 pixels. As you can see, we added a spacing from the top of it just by setting margin to 10 from the top. The border, in this case, the CSS already has 1 pixel border. So let's increase it to 3. For that, we can change the border to anything that we like, either from this box model or from this CSS property. or yep, changes when you change it. For the padding, it is the spacing between the border and the actual element size. So if I want to add padding, for example, I want my image to move to the right, have a spacing between the border on the left side so that my image will go to the right. So let's see, 30 pixels. There you go. You can see here there's a space between the border and the actual image. So that is the CSS box model. As simple as that. So let's reset. No, let's leave it there. The next lesson that was discussed was CSS display property. And let's select another element. For example, this H2, the header 2. Let's see. For this one, let's try. Oh, by the way, CSS display property can be blocked, inline block, or maybe set to none. So a block can change the width. A block is by default, for example, for paragraphs H1, H2, divs, it occupies the whole space of the space of the elements. So it means you cannot place two paragraphs, for example, side by side, because one paragraph will occupy one whole space regardless of the number of characters you have typed in. So let's try to visualize it by setting a background color of blue. So since by default an H2, which is our skills, is blocked by default, let's try to change it to inline. I'm sorry. Display. See, since we changed it to inline, the space it occupies is just the actual text that was typed in here. But if I try to say inline block, it's the same because inline block is just a hybrid of inline and block. So the main difference is that a block element cannot change the width. Let's change it into width. Example, let's give it by default. We can remove this since we know it's blocked by default. Change the width to, let's say, 10 px. Oops. Sorry, my mistake. It's the opposite. Block elements can change its width. So whenever I change this to, for example, that is a block, even if we remove it, it changes the width. But if I change this to inline, nope, it doesn't change the width. It didn't change its size to 30 pixels a while ago, 10 pixels, nope. But the combination of inline and inline block gets the best of both worlds. So as you see, we can change the width already for the inline block. So that's the CSS display option. It was also discussed about um, the property of visibility. So let's try. We can make this hidden. So hidden um, literally hides the element, but it keeps the space of the original. But if we use display none, display none just gets rid of the element totally. But visibility, it just hides the image or the element, but it keeps the space around. The next lesson was about one of the most important CSS is the CSS position property, which are static, relative, absolute, and fixed. So static, let me just bring this back. Okay. So static, by default, all HTML elements are static. Relative is, let me try back this that image. Hold on. Select that. Yep. So if I make this cat relative, so relative keeps the space that the element originally occupies, then moves it in relevance to that original position. So as for this example, if I select this image and make it position relative, and then if I want to move this image in relevance to its original, let's say top, I want to move it down by 10 pixels. You see there, it moved. Let's make it 40 pixels. Yeah, there. From the left, I want it to move 40 pixels. There, that's relative position. You can change top, bottom, left, and right. And for the absolute, yeah, as you can see from this relative, it does not change, it does not move other elements beside them since the original spacing that the element occupies is still there. So when we change this to absolute, oh sorry, to absolute, where is the image? It went there, went above, so by default, it's here, but the absolute changes position in relevance to its parent element. So in this case, it's the div plus skill row. So if, oh yeah, this is the skill row as a whole. So if I want to move this cat down in relevance to its parent, so it's just the same. So from the top, the position of the div, I want to move it 40 pixels. it went, it should go down from the div, then left. Oh, no, no. If it's from the top, it goes 40 pixels from the top of the div parent. And then if I want it from the left side, it gives 40 pixels from the left. Fix is just, if I want to fix it on a position, even when I'm scrolling, it will be there. So the next part will be text align. I won't demonstrate it anymore, but it's simply aligns everything in the center. It's usually done in the body of HTML as long as the element has no width set. But if it has a width set, you can use margin 0, auto, 0, auto. Another topic would be font sizing, font styling. It's simply just changing the font style. Font family is the property that needs to be set in your CSS. There's also font embedding. It's just using an external file or APIs and then linking it to your HTML so that you can use any kind of font that is available online, even though the source or the viewer doesn't have that font. So you can embed and use fonts from other websites or from other APIs like Google. CSS sizing is self-explanatory, just allows you to change the size by pixels or by LEM or by percentage. So REM. So it's just saying that one REM is 16 pixels. So it's up to you what to use it. Then lastly, CSS float. CSS float is the property which allows you to position an element and then allows inline elements to wrap around it. So it's what we used for this images. And as you can see, the paragraphs are wrapping around this header as well. So CSS here is used for the wrapping element. If you want to clear and you don't want it to wrap around a floated element. So that's everything. I know there's a lot more to CSS. I'm self-reading and searching, but it's best to just go with the flow and understand the basics. And if there's anything that comes up with the project, just search from Google or MDN or maybe W3 School. That would be very helpful. So that's it for now. I'll proceed with the next lessons, probably Bootstrap, or I'm not sure if I wanted to skip other lessons, but probably I'll continue with Bootstrap and maybe I'll try to make it faster and for me to finish everything faster for now. Okay, thank you very much.